Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're coming to you with another socially distanced episode of the Mile High Game Guys as we wait for test results and for Omicron to not be such a vicious, uncaring bitch regarding my social life.
It's very weird that way.
Dude, all of COVID has been that way. It's been hot garbage. I finally now have Saturdays off, and now I don't know if I want to do anything on Saturdays that isn't going and hiding in the wilderness away from human beings. It's terrifying. Not really. I'm not actually terrified.
Until
just
all
frustrated.
of the animals get COVID, and then you got to stay away from those too.
Which they're starting to see it in some animals. So there was a snow tiger, I believe, that got it and died.
That was pretty early on, I thought.
No, it was a little while ago.
Oh.
I've heard of a few different like zoo animals catching it and stuff, like animals that have super regular contact with humans. I remember like a bunch of articles way back at the very beginning of the COVID thing about like, can your cats or dog get COVID? And I think if I remember correctly, cats were kind of a no, but dogs were kind of a yes. Could be the other way around. I don't know. Not enough of a
now we need
problem.
to have dog and cat vaccinations.
I mean, those are a thing, just probably not for COVID.
Usually rabies.
Yeah.
Soon COVID will
Parvo.
be like rabies, so.
You don't want to catch distemper.
Yeah, also another not great one. Heartworm medication. Not really a vaccine,
I
but...
mean, some people really like that heartworm medication, to be fair.
Yeah. So I've got sources, Adrian, that tell me different. So.
Well, it depends, I think, on what specific heartworm medication.
I'm just saying, do your research, man. So
Yeah.
I did my own research, and it was called Growing Up Around Horses My Whole Life, and it's bullshit.
Did you actually grow up around horses your whole life?
My mom's a equestrian show jumping teacher and now judge and administrator of horse shows.
I don't know if I forget that or if I just never really knew
I think
that.
you just keep forgetting it.
You just keep forgetting things.
That's probably fairly likely.
Yeah.
Right on. Wow. With all of that out of the way,
It's going to be a short episode, everyone.
It's going to be a very short episode. I'm tempted to drag out the beginning of the episode, but
don't say the word. You can't say the word.
Can't say it.
See, I feel like we say the word for all of our segments.
No,
Like,
no,
that's
we
part
don't.
of doing
No,
it.
it's not a we, it's a you. Yeah.
Anyway, this is a board gaming podcast, ostensibly, and so let's talk about board games. It's going to be a really short board game section because neither of you played any board games this week because COVID shut Jeff's workplace down, and then it was snowy on game night.
No, it did not. It did not shut us down.
Well,
but it did send 20 people home sick.
It fucked your workplace so that you had to work a whole lot.
Yes, correct.
And then Zach was awaiting test results, still awaiting test results.
Well, no, for that one, it was just the fact that there was a lot of stuff going on, but also there was snow. It was going to be snowing, and I didn't want to have to deal with the chance of like slipping with my foot. So,
oh yes, that's right. That was pre.
Yes.
Hey guys, I'm waiting on test results.
Yes,
and then
Timeline
also my
was
foot is
confused.
fucked. So we both got foot fucked.
Wait, your foot's fucked, Jeff?
Achilles tendonitis.
Oh shit.
That sucks.
Yeah, that does suck.
Banter's leaking into board games now.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll cycle back around to this.
You just
Well, anyway.
started snowboarding again, Jeff.
I know.
So that is why they have not played any board games. Myself, I went to game night because I had Megan's Subaru with snow tires and all-wheel drive, so I fear no snow and ice. And my feet are fine, so I threw on my good winter boots and I took off to game night. Especially because I had already made the decision that it was going to be the last game night before we took a little bit of a break because of the recent COVID spike. And so I wanted to go and talk to it was at D-Bolt, which is one of our super regular places. So I wanted to talk to them directly, be like, hey guys, we're not going to be in here next month. Kind of let them know. And then that way I could let people know who were there kind of in person. And just kind of get a feel for how many people actually showed up, because the week before at Burns, we had like 10 people. And I think I talked about last week's episode where I was like, is it because of COVID? Is it because it's at Burns? Is it because it's like the Wednesday before Christmas? I don't know. So then this one was at D-Bolt and it was snowy. And we also had 10 people. And so it was like, well, is it because it's default, or is it because it's snowy, or is it because of COVID? But the people I talked to who didn't come to game night, a lot of them all voiced that it was largely COVID that was keeping them away. And so with enough of the group staying away because of that, and then also talking to Megan about like the status of things in her ICU at her hospital and just overall numbers, it was like, okay, we got to take a break. So this will be the last game night for a while, which will make the podcast kind of interesting. We'll see how much gaming we do outside of the game night stuff to try and keep things going. But I did get to play a game I got to play some games at game night. And then I played some games at home, and then I played some games with Paul and Legal. So I actually have more than 2 games to talk about because I had totally forgotten about game night. So started off game night. I got there pretty much right at 6. I didn't go early. A couple other people showed up pretty much right at 6, so we played some No Thanks. I came in roughly in the middle and in the first game, and then I came in like second from last, or maybe even last. I don't think I even counted up all my points in the second game. I don't remember what happened in the second game. Like somebody definitely kind of fucked me by taking I had like 35 and 33, and the 34 came out, and I was letting it go around like 2 times, and somebody who had plenty of chips, didn't need the chips, but was like, oh, I can't let Adrian get all those chips. I'm just going to tank my own score by taking this 34 with all of these chips to make sure that he'll never connect his 35 and 33. And it was like, oh, well, great, cool. Now we both lose, and somebody else gets to win, so thanks for doing that. But that was all right. I enjoyed No Thanks. It's a fun little game. About that time, some more people.
It is a fun little game.
It is. The copy I got, though, so I just got a new copy because it's one of those games that I kind of, I take a page out of Anthony's book. So Anthony started doing this with Hanabi, where it's super cheap. You can usually pick it up for right around $10. Sometimes you can get lucky and get it under $10. So he buys or at least used to, he'd buy multiple copies. And then when he'd play with somebody or introduce somebody and they really liked it, he'd just be like, here, have the copy. And I've done that a couple times with No Thanks and For Sale. And so I didn't have a copy of No Thanks, and I bought this one at Black and Red the other day, but it's like giant, almost tarot sized, like flashcard sized No Thanks cards, and it's just kind of unwieldy, and it sucks. So I think somebody was saying that Target carries the regular small card size No Thanks, so I might go buy that and then give away this giant obnoxious card sized No Thanks.
Well, what you can do is you can the big card version has the really nice chips.
It does.
The black, so you can put away those. You can use those tiddlywink chips that come in the regular version and give them with the big cards to somebody else.
Just give somebody the absolute worst possible version of the game.
Yeah, I know for me at least the big cards don't bother me because I keep it in that quiver that just holds a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm dealing with just it.
That's fair.
But what if you go to Target and also buy the tin metal edition of Hanabi along with it?
Is it the special edition with the Mahjong style tiles?
No, but when you shuffle them, all of the covering on the cards flakes off like confetti.
Oh, I was unaware of that. Fuck all of that.
Yeah, and it has a misprint in the rulebook that tells you to play with less cards than you're supposed to in 2-player.
That's fine.
That's also fine. Garbage. Anyway, back to game night. So after No Thanks, we'd started to get people trickling in. And so we were trying to decide how much to split up into. And it was like, okay, well, we've got 6 people. So we'll play Betrayal. And then 2 more people walked in. It was like, okay, well, now we can't do that, because now we're at 8 people. Do we want to play a game that's 8 people? And it was like, no, let's split into 2 groups of 4. And then 2 other people walked in. It was like, okay, well, now I guess we're going to do 2 games of 5. So the other table ended up still playing Betrayal with 5 people. Meanwhile, I played Streets. I think it's just called Streets. It's the sequel.
People on the comma?
No, not people on the. Although that joke was made regularly. But it's kind of the sequel to a card game called Village. It is. I just checked it.
We chatted about that on the Kickstarter, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I played Streets, and that was kind of like we were talking about like what to play, and I think it was Jimmy was there, and he was like, "I've got Streets," and I was like, I actually want to play Streets. Like I have, or no, it was Sean who had it, and I was like, I actually do want to play that. Like that sounds good. Let's do that. So we played a 5-player game of the Streets. Sean hadn't played before. He had at least punched the game, but so we were all learning, kind of referencing the rule book and playing. But it's a tile laying game where you're basically making a grid of streets, and so the tiles have like a building on them and a little bit of street along one side of the square tile, and you can connect it parallel in a line with other streets. Up to 5 streets is the most tiles that can be in a given street, and then somebody has to play a street perpendicular on each end to close the street. And then once the street is closed, you score all of the cards in it and all of the people on that street, then move to other streets. And so there's like 5 different colors of people. There's like, and they're like things like, one of his is like parents. It's like a little, I thought it was a rollerblade or like a roller skate the whole game. And then I mentioned that and somebody was like, that is very clearly like a baby stroller. What are you talking about? And I was like, oh, so it is. Then there's like shoppers, there's tourists.
But what if you had a baby stroller on each foot? Would it become skates then?
Right? That's what that joke even got made there too. It was great.
Well, now I like my joke less.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was a good, because it was immediately the thing. It's like, well, what if I just jumped 1 foot in each baby stroller and took off down the street? Would that count? So you score points basically each, and we scored 1 street completely wrong. When you put a street down, when you put your little card down, it'll have some symbols on it that'll determine like what types of people start on that street. So you take those meeples from the supply and you put them on the card, and then the card will have a scoring condition on it, and you put your own little like ownership token to say like, hey, I own this one. And then when the street scores, you score your whatever your scoring objective is, which might be like score 2 for every blue building on the street. And so if there's 3 of them, you score 6, but then you also score 1 point for every person on your space. And then whoever was the person to close the street, once all of the buildings have scored, they choose where everybody goes, and they want to go to an open building of the same color as the meeple. So all the yellows want to go to an open yellow building. And if there is no space that's open, they stay standing up on the closed street, and they're in FOMO mode. And so the first time somebody plays a building that matches them, they all race down the roads over to that other building and just pack it full of people. And you play like this until you play through all the tiles, and then whoever has the most money, which is points, is the winner. It was fun. There's definitely not a huge amount of strategy. There can be a little bit, and I saw some clever plays where somebody like realized like, oh, if I don't close this street now, like other people are going to score a ton of points, so I better close it to deny them points. Or at one point, the way the streets got made, there were 2 that were parallel with a gap in between them, and so somebody noticed that like they could just play 1 street card in between those 2 parallel, and it would immediately score. And so they used that to score some of their own on like very small individual streets that nobody else could really get involved in. And so, yeah, it was a fun, interesting little game. There are some add-on module stuff that we didn't play with. I don't really know what those do because we didn't really look at them. But I think that would add, a little bit more depth and complexity potentially to the game itself. But I thought it was fun. It was a good game night kind of game. Really easy to teach, really easy to play. Can take up a little bit of space as those like streets kind of wind. We were getting to where the width part of the table was pretty full. And if somebody had kept a street going much further, it would have been a real problem. But that was also about the time we ran out of tiles, so it worked out all right.
Well, it's almost fingers crossed. Well, I guess it was a large player count game too, right?
Yeah, we did play the 5-player.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would play with 4 or 3. You'd use a little bit fewer tiles, but not much fewer. So I think game length wise, it wouldn't take that much. less time. Like each individual person would probably end up playing more tiles than fewer people. But also like it's one less person making decisions and trying to strategize. So it kind of balances out in that regard. And then that went quick enough that we all still had like a little bit of beer left. And so we were like, all right, well, let's finish up our beers and find something else short to play. And so Sean also pulled out In Vino Morte, which literally translates to In Wine Death. It is a button shy game, one of those little plastic wallet sized games, just a handful of cards. I think it was like 10 cards total. You play it with up to 5 players. And I think you could probably play with quite a bit more than 5 players. Maybe you could even play it up to 10. I don't know. The cards are divided into wine cards and poison cards. And so whoever is the dealer for the round, and the dealer kind of rotates, whoever is the dealer, they pick a combination of wine and poison cards. There must be at least 1 wine and at least 1 poison. They pick a number of cards equal to the number of players, and then they hand those out secretly, so nobody knows what anybody else got. The dealer gets to know what everyone got. And then starting with the person to the dealer's left, you get to either drink the cup in front of you, so you flip it face up and reveal whether it was wine or poison, or you can trade it exactly once with somebody else. So you can trade with the dealer, or you can trade with somebody else that you think the dealer might have wanted to keep alive. Everybody going around the table gets this exact same choice until it gets back to the dealer. The dealer does not get the same choice, but once it gets back to the dealer, everyone who has not drank the cup in front of them now drinks the cup in front of them simultaneously. Anybody who drinks poison is dead and is out, and the deal moves to the next player to the left, and you keep playing until there's only 1 person left alive. Most of our games, when it got down to 3, the dealer was doing 2 poisons and 1 good wine, so that there was only 1 good one to try and find in the mix. There were a couple times, though, that it did come down to like 1-on-1, and one of those was me versus Sean, and he was the dealer, and so like when it's 1-on-1 that there's 1 wine and 1 poison, and so it very much became like Princess Bride. I clearly cannot drink the wine in front of you. But I can't drink the wine in front of me, but I can't drink the wine in front of you because you would know that I can't drink the wine in front of me, kind of back and forth. And then finally I did the basically like, all right, let's just drink what's in front of us. And I won because he poisoned himself because he thought I would trade with him. So it worked perfectly. Sucker.
I will say, I remember that they came out with a wine bluffing game, based on Princess Bride, like a board game of it, and as you started describing it, I was just like, "Wait, is this that game?"
I don't think it is. Like, there was definitely nothing about it that seemed themed.
No, I looked it up, and it's not that one. I forget what it's called, but let's see.
Battle of Wits.
Yeah,
interesting.
Would you guess that it's not very good?
I would definitely assume that.
Hey, it's ranked 17,000. All right, so
5.6 out of 10, basically flawless.
Yep.
2 to 10 players.
Yours sounds better.
I feel like it was definitely better.
Although this one is weighted higher. It's a 1.1 versus the other one's straight 1. So
yeah, so the Princess Bride one seems vaguely interesting. So you put all of the goblets in the middle of the table, and then each player gets to play cards 1 per turn, either on top of the goblet, which adds poison or wine to it, or to the bottom of the goblet, thus bidding on the goblet. So maybe I could also see it just being one of those where it's like, okay, the person I want to kill just bid on that cup. I'm now going to poison that cup so that they're dead. I don't know. But I enjoyed In Vino Morte.
Cool.
That was it for game night. Other than that, I played another game of Descent with Megan. And we had talked about how we had done one of the side missions, and it was really fucking hard. And you guys felt like that meant that we were somewhere in the same vicinity in the play area as you guys. Well, then we did this mission. I'm not going to talk anything about the mission itself because I don't want to give any hint about, like, I don't want somebody to start and be like, oh, this is that mission Adrian was talking about. But
I'm just going to say that for every mission, just so you know.
Yeah. Go for it.
So I'll be right. At some point, I'm going to be right.
Eventually, you will be right. Yep.
And it'd be like, Adrian, you eventually spoiled us when we finally got to it. So just prepare is all I'm saying.
I don't think that's how spoiling works, but anyway,
Wow, you just spoiled how spoiling works.
At the very end, at the very end of this one, we used not only the giant dragon skull that comes in the set that we were like, when would you like? Is this going to be something like that's the end of the game? Like, nope, we used that, and the big honkin' mini that like if you got the pre-sale edition or the special edition that came with some extra shit, you get like a washed super mini of this like big badass enemy, and that one showed up, and it was like, wow, these showed up like what I feel like is crazy early in the game, and so that was good to see because like I feel like they will get used more regularly than just being like one or two times at the very end of the game that lot of people might not see. You're going to actually see them fairly early, and it seems like they will probably both in different ways than they came up there keep coming up. I have noticed already playing over a lot of the missions that even things like the wolves aren't always exactly the same kind of wolf, or like a lot of the minis do double duty. And so they do multiple things, and they can be multiple different types of enemies. And I actually wouldn't be surprised.
Depends on what level they are, I believe.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. But I mean, you could like there was one game where we had like 4 of the same enemy, and they were all different levels of that exact same named enemy. It was just like level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it was like, okay, well, the level 4 guy hits like a fucking truck.
What? That doesn't track.
Weird.
Yeah, especially when they've got I think it's the acolytes, that their special thing is like when you attack them, it randomly adds 2 damage to another person. And it really sucks when the same person gets that plus 2 damage like 4 times in a round and then hits for plus 8 damage. So yeah, cool, I'm dead.
It's almost as if you want to kill the other things that aren't the acolyte first. So you don't have to worry about that as much. Yes,
that is almost how that works.
Almost.
Yeah.
But you enjoyed that mission?
I did. It was a really good mission. The story part of it was good. Like they kept having little bits of like of story behind it, where things kept happening. It was a very dynamic map. And then the getting to see the big mini was awesome. And yeah, really love the things they do with the terrain and the multiple levels and moving up and down and like all of that kind of stuff. The only thing that kind of breaks my immersion a little bit is that you treat elevation as if it doesn't exist when determining like range. So like you can be down on the ground and totally still shoot somebody who's like way up above, as long as they're within like the 4 spaces of you that's your range. And it's like,
it's line of sight, man. You can see them, it's fine.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like, I'm not sure you'd actually be able to see that person.
The app is great.
Yeah.
Yes. Very well designed app. Very happy with it. So we continue to really like Descent. We unlocked a bunch of stuff in that mission. It is endlessly frustrating in a good sort of way how you never know if a chest on the board is going to be like 5 metal that you can use for crafting, or if it's going to be like legit good loot like weapons or modifications to your weapons. So you're like always like, oh man, is it worth it to try and go for that chest? It might be, it might not be. Do I do it? And it's really rewarding when it is, and then it's a little bit frustrating again, kind of in a good way, when it isn't. It's like, they got me. They fooled me. So,
well, the answer to that question is every chest you have to open.
Well, we certainly try. That is almost certainly what cost us the one mission we have lost, is because we split up way too much to go try and open and search everything, and then 1,000 enemies showed up, and we were all scattered. It was like, great, they're just gonna pick us off one at a time now.
Mm-hmm. You just gotta kill the enemies, and then it's fine. Just kill the enemies, and then also search things.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the problem.
No, not yet.
Yeah, well, travel around and search things as a group. It works much better. Last game I played was Arkwright the Card Game. So I worked a little bit of overtime on Saturday. I just had to go in for a couple hours. And I was wrapping up at work, and I was like, man, it's Saturday. It's the first time I've been like free before 7 p.m. on a Saturday, and I don't know how long. I really want to play Arkwright. Let me see if I can get some people together. So I posted in the local gaming group, the local game Slack channel, and Paul was like, "Yep, I'd be interested." I was like, "Cool, let's try and find at least one more." And so he got a hold of our friend Legal, and so I went over to Paul's house because he was conveniently in the middle. And also it was, well past time that I finally went to Paul's new place. I couldn't keep avoiding it forever. So we went over there. It took like an hour to teach the game. It is a fairly dense game. This is also the first time I tried to teach it. I had played it two-handed, just trying to kind of get a overview of the rules. But I didn't really have a good grasp of how to teach it. I think I would do better teaching it now and faster. But we got the teach done, and it is a game where once you learn the game, like all the iconography makes sense. And it's really actually pretty simple. It's like you have one of 5 actions that you're going to do, and you're going to do one action a round for 12 rounds, and then that's basically the end of the game. But we found pretty early on one of the issues we were having is, so we did Chwazi to start, and Legal got first. And the problem we ran into is the very first round in a 3-player game using the like beginner setup, it tells you what factories to start with based on where you are in player order. And all 3 players start with a bread factory, which is the first factory to run in that first era. And Legal went ahead and set his, like, you set your appeal and price, and basically like the lower your price, the higher your appeal. So you got to find this kind of balance versus customer demand. And so he set his to where he thought he would be able to sell like 4 pieces of bread. But then by the time I went and Paul went and we set our appeal, we both set our prices lower. So ours was more appealing, which affected customer demand a little bit, to where he only got to sell like 1 piece of bread. I sold 2, and then Paul sold all 3 of his, which set it up to where like I got to increase my stock value 1, Paul got to increase his 2, and Legal didn't get increases at all. And then that kind of set the tone for the rest of the game, where anytime it, like at the end of each of the 3 major eras, the new first player is determined by who has the lowest total stock value, which kept being Legal. So he kept being first, which kept meaning that like we got to set our prices and things after he did. So we were able to keep basically outbidding him, and he kept getting stuck being first player. And so it kind of felt like it was meant to be a handicap. Like it was supposed to be like a catch-up mechanism to let the lowest score go first. But it actually seemed like you really, in an area, at least for factories where there's really any competition, you wanted to go last, because then you knew exactly what you needed to set your appeal at, and somebody else couldn't be like, oh, I'm going to set it too higher just to screw Adrian. So that was the only issue we really noticed with the game. We want to play a little bit more, or at least I want to play a little bit more with the regular rules, just to see if it kind of shakes out. If not, I might consider house ruling, where first player is opposite. First player goes to the person with the highest stock value, because then everybody else gets a chance to react to what they do, which seems a little bit better. So
I can see that, yeah.
I really like the game. There's 0 randomness, other than like the kind of randomness that you get from not knowing exactly what another person is going to do. Like it kind of makes their actions seem random, like from your point of view, even if they're not. And there is an element of being able to predict what someone else is going to do. But it's surprisingly dense. It took us like 2.5 hours to play, I think, plus that hour-long teach. So it was like we were there for like 3.5 hours. I think in the future, like I said, I think that teach would go a lot quicker. Now that I've actually taught it to other people once, and I've seen like kind of what explanations make sense and what doesn't. And then I think if everybody knows the game, even just if you've played it once, I think it would immediately go so much faster the second time. Like most of that first era, both Paul and Legal, to some extent, both of them were like, I don't really know what I'm doing here, so I'm just going to try some things, and like kind of hem and haw about like, what are my options actually? What should I do? And then I had played the two-handed, so I'd already seen some of the interaction and had an idea of what some things might work better than others. But even I was like, you guys are doing things I never would have expected. So now I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to react. And so now I got to think about things a little bit. But I think if everybody knew the game, it would actually go a lot quicker.
That makes sense. I would ask how you think it compares to the base game or the main game, but you said you haven't played that one, right?
No, and that was a big part of why I backed Arkwright the card game on Kickstarter. Is I wanted it to be kind of I'm hoping that mechanics wise, there's at least some relation there that learning this game will in some way, shape, or form help me. With Arkwright, that's kind of a stretch. I don't know if that'll actually play out. I was thinking later after the fact about Terraforming Mars Ares versus Terraforming Mars, and I don't know how much playing Ares would actually help you learn regular Terraforming Mars. Like, it would familiarize yourself with some of the concepts and maybe some of the iconography.
But you wouldn't get a big heads up.
Yeah, the gameplay is different enough that I don't think knowing one really affects your ability to know and understand the other one. Outside of the scoring, I guess, or the end game condition. But I feel like the end game condition in Arkwright is going to be similar. I think it's the same thing where it's just you just play until the end. There's a turn, a number of turns, and you play that and it's done. And so it's not something you need to learn.
Yeah.
So
the game's going to end whether you want it to or not.
Yeah, whether you understand how it's ending, it's ending. But yeah, so those are all the games I played.
Hey, you're still able to fill up about 30 minutes, so that's good.
Yeah. I'm now talked out. So let's move into banter. And Jeff, since this is the first I've heard of it, I want to hear more about your frickin' Achilles tendonitis.
Yeah, I don't know how it started. It just sort of popped up after Christmas, and then it was a short week before New Year's, so it wasn't really bothering me. Then went through New Year's, and it wasn't really getting any better. And then I had the nightmare week last week, where everyone was out sick, and then I was really working on it, and then it was painful all last weekend, and it's been kind of rough today, because really walking with a limp at work, and that works a lot of muscles that you're not used to when you're limping for fucking 8 hours. But actually, it's feeling pretty all right tonight. We'll see what it actually feels like tomorrow. But
I was gonna say, I got a boot if you want to use it.
I do too.
Okay, yeah,
but I can't wear that at work because you need steel toes on the production floor.
And and they're actually like almost the opposite of steel-toed.
Yes.
Here, let's expose these toes for you.
Yes. That would not work so well at work. But that's all it is.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
It makes it so my right foot doesn't want to lift because it hurts.
I get that.
Yeah. But everyone's back now today, so
that's good.
Yeah, that was a pretty short break for some of them.
5 days.
Yeah. Well, that's
I mean, it's supposed to be 5 days from the last time you showed symptoms after testing negative or something. It's not just
look,
hey,
the economy's not going to save itself, man. You gotta
you gotta throw bodies at it.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people weren't sick, but some people had to go home for 5 days because they weren't vaccinated, and it was just nope, even if you have no symptoms, you are out of here.
Yeah, that for sure makes sense.
Yeah, but then some other people were actually sick, and then
Gotcha.
some people were positive with no symptoms, which was kind of the majority of them.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
at least. Yeah, I haven't seen the majority of people I've seen who has been positive has. I mean, it makes sense. You're not really if you're by yourself, you're not going to get tested if you're not experiencing anything if you don't think about it. So
yeah.
Okay. We just had one of our guys who's been gone for 2 weeks come back today. From COVID related things. So yeah.
It's affecting all parts of work.
So far my work's I've not noticed much. I don't know what is affecting my work more, COVID or the looming shutdown. And moving everything to Costa Rica, because a lot of people I think are just not coming in anymore because they're well, I'm not gonna go work for, 12, 15 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is in Lakewood for a company that's like getting ready to get rid of my job. Like, you can take your severance and shove it. So they told us they're not hiring any more maintenance techs, which means the first shift that I'm on is going to continue to be incredibly understaffed for the next 6 months until they actually get rid of enough equipment that things should balance out. So that's going to not be great.
No, I'm sure it'll be okay.
It'll be fine. I'll survive.
You'll be fine.
Or I'll hopefully get a new job. I have been fielding recruiters left and right. I somehow wound up on some list of like recruiting ex-military people. And so I've been getting all kinds of job offers through that company. Like, hey, this place likes to hire veterans. Would you like to apply? Like, nah. How much do they pay? Oh, over $30 an hour? Yes, please. Yeah.
We'll be hiring soon, I think.
Are you paying over $30 an hour?
Oh, absolutely not. It's a brewery.
I know.
No one makes over $30 an hour at a fucking brewery, except someone in an office somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe like 5 people at a brewery the size of Avery.
Yeah. And most of them have acronym names like CEO, CFO.
Yeah. CPA. No.
Yeah.
Probably not. Anyway. I don't have a ton of other bantry things. I did get to go snowboarding again, so I will talk about snowboarding, especially because this time involved highway shenanigans. So I felt really fortunate so far driving to the mountains. Even once on a Saturday, we went up New Year's Day, which was a Saturday, and we made it from Denver all the way to Bluebird Backcountry, which is out nearly to Steamboat Springs. We made it in like under 3 hours. It was great. And we took 70 all the way into Silverthorne and no issues. And like we've left a couple times on Fridays, and Fridays, for a long time have been kind of sketchy because enough people like can get Friday off for a long weekend that sometimes Fridays, especially after a big snowstorm or something, Fridays can kind of suck. We'd been lucky, hadn't had any issues. That luck ran out this past Friday. We met up at the park and ride lots just outside of town, picked up our friend. He was a little bit late, so I don't think we really left park and ride until like 7:15, which is in the before time certainly way the fuck too late. And on a Saturday or Sunday, it would have been also way the fuck too late. But we'd been getting lucky, and so we kind of pushed it, and that failed us. We ran into multiple bits of traffic and slowdowns constantly on the way up there, finally culminating in a few miles from the Eisenhower Tunnel. We ran into like gridlock, like dead stop parking lot highway. And Megan had pulled up. By that point, we had already been running into enough traffic stuff that she had pulled up the Google Maps to kind of see like if it was ever going to, route us around or tell us to go somewhere else, or just going to kind of keep an eye on things. And as we came to a stop, we rapidly watched the estimated time of arrival go like, this is a 10-minute delay, 20-minute, 40-minute, hour and 10-minute delay. And it was like, oh my God, we're not going to sit in this traffic for an hour and 10 minutes. This is bullshit. But it was standstill, like, couldn't do anything about it. We were there for probably, 15, 20 minutes, long enough for me to take a photo and post it to Slack and for us to kind of, run out of like random chit chat, about sitting in traffic. When I realized that we were like, somebody came cruising down the shoulder, like, past us on the right side. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, who's driving along the shoulder, like, in this standstill traffic? Like, do you think you're really going to get ahead anywhere? Like, nobody can even make room for you. What the hell? And then, like, somebody else did it. I was like, what, that's shit. And then I noticed that they weren't passing on the shoulder. That was the on-ramp for the last on-ramp before the tunnel. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, guys, how do you feel about reversing down an on-ramp? Like, is that something you guys are okay with? And they were both, Megan was like, oh man, I don't know. That's kind of like a weird, like, we're looking at it. She's like, that's kind of a weird angle. Like, I feel like that's kind of a blind corner. That might not be safe. And then as we're sitting there watching it and evaluating this, we see 4 big fucking trucks coming up the shoulder from further behind us, and the first one gets there and executes this like really awkward 3-4 point turn to turn the sharp angle to go drive straight back down the on-ramp to get off the highway. And I was like, oh, I'm taking advantage of this. So we had enough
having
space.
The trucks be right in front of you.
Yep.
So you're not. Yep.
so I reversed up and ended up in between them. So I had 2 trucks in front of me and 2 trucks behind me, and they were all driving forward and I'm reversing. And so they're all getting a huge kick out of that, like the weird, like looking at me as I'm leaning back over the seat trying to reverse down this on ramp. And so we reversed on the on ramp, we bailed, and we ended up going to Winter Park. And we had a great day at Winter Park. Andy and I had a great day at Winter Park. Megan definitely got super fed up by the traffic, and it kind of ruined her fun early, and she wasn't able to find it again. So the rest of her day was a little sour. But Andy and I had a bunch of fun. We found some really good powder in some trees. Had some great.
I was gonna say it is interesting just how some people like just that traffic can like you said ruin their entire day. Mm-hmm. I've got my stepdad is very much like he leaves for work like an hour and a half early just to avoid traffic.
Yeah. For Megan, it's like really only that kind of standstill, like stuck in traffic thing. But like for her, it makes snowboarding almost not worth it. Whereas for me, like snowboarding is so far and away my favorite thing to do on this entire planet that I get enough fun out of it. She may have been able to turn it around, except for like we had heard that the panorama lift, which goes like way up to the very top of Winter Park and lets you into some of the back bowls, we had heard it was open, and we were trying to get over to that part of the mountain, and we got there right when they closed the lift. And so they had stopped the lift briefly for wind, and so a huge line had built up, and then we got there right as they told the entire huge line, like, hey, we're not actually going to reopen the lift today, so you got to go somewhere else. So then we were in the middle of this huge mob of people trying to get down like 2 different runs back down to like 2 other small lifts to try and scatter. And so that, I think that was the final nail in her coffin of like,
that makes sense. Yeah.
She was like between being stuck, on the highway and all the traffic and then the huge crowds at the resort. She was just like, man, I am so over resorts. Like this sucks. I don't understand why I'm spending, I don't remember how, I think her Icon Pass, because they have like a really good nurse discount, I think it was like $400 or $500, but she was like, I don't understand why I'm spending like that much money for this kind of shit. Like it's not worth it for me. I was like, just breathe. It'll be okay. We still definitely went and got beers because we saw that huge line and we were like, well, fuck that. We're not standing in that left line. Let's go get some beers and let that wind down a bit.
Yeah.
So we had beers and hung out and yeah. Then we went and did a little bit more snowboarding, and it was fun. So far off to a pretty good start to the season. Wish I had a few more days on the mountain at this point. I'm a little bit behind where I want to be. But we're planning on going up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this upcoming week. So I should be at 8 days by the 18th, 17th. No, not even that, because it's Monday now. By the 15th. So 8 days by the 15th, which will put us, we're trying for 30 days today. That's our goal, is to have 30 days on the mountain. So we're getting in the right vicinity of things. But got to really crush it hard through the back half of January and then February, March, and April.
Yeah, well, at the very least, we're getting more snow now than we were before.
Oh, man. Yeah. So. The like last 2 weeks have been great. Unfortunately, the next 2 weeks are pretty thin. Yeah, like Copper's getting a cumulative 8 inches over the next 10 days. Same for Winter Park. Like, it's not looking great. I think towards the end of next week is when snow should be coming back. So I'll be keeping my eyes peeled on that. But yeah, that's my main banter. I don't even think I have a lot in movies or TV. Still crushing Tropico 6. I switched to straight up sandbox mode.
Oh, you stopped doing the campaign or whatever it was?
Yeah. The missions were getting difficult. They were getting very restrictive. Like each era gets harder and harder.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it that they were getting restrictive, or the first point of resistance you just crumbled?
No, I fought through two tough ones where like there were various points where I was like, negative $20,000 and came back from it. And there were multiple ones where I fought back hard. The mission that I'm on, the mission that I gave up on was the first one into the modern era. And like each era gets harder and harder. Like people have a higher threshold for happiness because like, they want things like healthcare. Like in the very first era, colonial era, you can't build any healthcare buildings. So people just don't give a shit about healthcare. But then like, as you move forward in the eras, people like want good healthcare and they want like, liberty and, equality and things like that. Jeez.
Entitlement is what that is.
Exactly. So like the mission I was on, like you start in the Cold War era, which is the third of the four eras, but you don't start with a very built out nation. So you have to really rapidly build out your nation and get it profitable. And if you fuck up in any way, shape, or form, you're just going to hemorrhage money, which is what happened to me. So I switched. I wanted to play one of the sandbox ones, or I want to play sandbox for a little bit so I could start all the way in colonial and like slowly move through the eras at my own speed and try and make sure that I'm ready for the next era's challenges before I go into that era. And just try to figure out how some of the systems are interconnected a little bit better than the missions were giving me. Especially because some of the missions tweak rules and stuff anyway. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Watching The Witcher slowly. It puts me to sleep. I really, really like it, but man, something about its like pacing or something. I have a hard time staying awake through Witcher episodes sometimes.
I've been enjoying it. I think I'm on episode 6 now of the second season.
I think we're 5, maybe 6.
I mean, it's definitely the previous season was a lot more. The timeline was like over 80 years, depending on who you were looking at. So like, there's a lot of like, it was a lot of like greatest hits. Where this one's very much now it's real time, more or less, and you're just sort of sitting with people, and it's definitely got a lot of good character stuff, but it's not as action packed or world traveling as the previous season was.
Right.
I really should have rewatched the first season because I didn't remember fuck all of what was going on in that world.
I definitely had a bit of that when I was watching that first episode of like,
what?
Oh, who is this again? Yeah, why is this? Oh, right, yeah.
This show came out 2.5 years ago, or 90 days ago. I can't remember when season 1 came out.
Well, that was the thing so we watched the season 1. Like I tried to watch it way back and had the same issue where it was a little bit slow burn and I struggled a bit. And then I finally got Megan hooked on it, so we burned through it like a month ago, like right up to I think we finished like a week or two before the premiere of season 2. But the thing that fucked us up is it was like a huge span between filming. And so like some of the characters like don't look the same. Like if you do side by side images, like we looked, and like even looking it up online, there were other people who were like, wow, like Siri changed a lot between seasons. And
like you said, that's just aging, right? And it's better, honestly, like she's older to, doing some of the stuff she's doing now versus if it was just like a kid, I guess.
Yeah.
And also I think she's just matured as an actor too, which is always good. They changed the armor of the Nilfgaardians, which is good. They don't look as scrotal sacky, which is always good.
See, they all died. All those ones with that armor, they're dead now.
Yeah,
so
they're just not all of them. There's just the one guy with the beard that does not have a face that I like. Man, I don't know why, but every time I see him, I'm just like, ugh.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I finished Doom Patrol.
Nice.
I've watched all 3 seasons. What else did I do? We've played some Foxhole.
Yep.
For the first time.
Yeah. Well, we played it in the sense of we were just standing in trenches shooting at people. Yeah, that's basically the game. I understand that. And then there people like building trenches and stuff, and I'm like, huh, okay, well, I'm just gonna continue. this war seems boring. Of just stand here, shoot, and then a grenade comes in, and then I'm like, well, I guess I'll just die then.
Yep,
Boom.
pretty much. But it is the portion where it's actually in between, I guess, seasons, you could call it.
Yes.
That we just so happen to play.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the actual war will be like.
Yeah, like that, and that map was like north versus south, and then the next map's going to be east versus west. So they kind of change up the directions.
Gotcha. Yeah. Unless, of course, you tilt the camera, and then it might as well be north and south again, right?
Yes. But the camera is much better now. That's it's much easier to see any distance at all.
Yeah.
Played a little more Guardians of the Galaxy. It still feels like I'm pretty early in the game, but it's hard to tell because that beginning is so different than where it goes later.
Yeah. No, I'm still like I think I played it for like 3 or 4 hours, and it just started to turn in terms of like little like abilities and stuff that you get. So
yeah,
I'm curious to see. I just haven't had the that spark to start it again.
It was hard to remember how to play because it is kind of.
I remember not being that big a fan, not a super big fan of the combat in a way. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I was enjoying just traversing the world and doing little things there. But then like when it was like, it almost dropped you into like an arena sort of thing where you had enemies showing up. That one I was just like, But the story is still great on it from what I've played.
Yeah,
so
I had to remember that you as Star-Lord have abilities you can use.
Yes.
I forgot that for a while. I also forgot that I could
look, it makes sense. You're just like, I'm a boring human. Everybody else is cool aliens. They have powers.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, right. This fucking gun that changes shape.
Yeah. The element guns? I don't remember
Something
what
like
they're
that,
called in the Marvel proper, but his guns that shoot things.
Mm-hmm.
They've turned them into video game mechanics.
What?
What?
How dare they?
I haven't really done anything else besides that, I think.
No, not about the same for me, too.
I watched the first episode of Why the Last Man, which is a TV show that is already canceled.
Yes. So my question is, why?
Yorick.
No. Why? I mean, I'm guessing that's what his name was?
Yes.
Or something like
yes,
that.
His name is Yorick.
Right. No, I mean, but why? Like, I've definitely never been somebody who's like, oh, this show was canceled. Let me still watch it and find out what I missed.
No, I wanted to watch the beginning because I really love the comic and have read the entirety of it. As absolutely one of my favorite comics I've ever read. Period.
Gotcha.
So I kind of wanted to see how the show was going to handle the beginning of what was going on, and they did a pretty good job. They've kind of made some choices and changes in just a couple episodes I saw. It's a pretty old comic, so.
Right.
But it was good. I like it.
Yep.
It was totally fine. I don't know. I got that Hulu year subscription for like $12, so
yeah.
I gotta use it.
Reservation Dogs is real good. You should check that out.
I have not.
It is a FX show about these 4 kids that live on a reservation and are trying to just like think something akin to like Atlanta. Or did you ever watch Atlanta?
No.
Okay. Well, that comparison sort of falls apart then.
What We Do in the Shadows is on Hulu. I should probably watch that.
It is. You definitely should.
Yeah.
This last season was particularly good. We watched the second episode of Book of Boba Fett. That was good. Yep. I liked that.
Well, I did watch the first episode of that, and I did like that a lot too.
Oh, you haven't watched the second one yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I won't say anything else then. Other than the first episode, I was like, I'm enjoying this.
They killed him off. They killed off Boba Fett. What are they going to do with the rest of the series?
It's Fennec. She's just writing the book about Boba Fett. She's like, this man died super early. In a stomach, what a wuss.
Screech, you wonder how I got here 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah. But the first episode of Boba Fett, I was like, I'm enjoying this, but I'm enjoying this, but then like the second episode, I was like, oh shit, now I'm totally
They had to tell what happened in spots that people have wanted to know, and they did that. And now they can do other things.
Oh yeah. But not just telling the past, but they've now introduced things that's like, I want to see where those go.
Yes. And that's that's that.
Yeah. All I'll just say is there weren't enough people to carry that thing. It's just not enough. Not enough people. So.
Okay. Well, shall we move on to some news and Kickstarter, or do either of you have more bantery things you wanted to get covered?
No, got it all out.
All right. Well, then let's move on.
Only one singular news this week with Gen Con's announcement of badges going on sale at the end of this month. They have also announced that vaccines and masks will be mandated for the convention, which is kind of what they wanted to do. People wanted them to do last year, and they didn't. So, hooray!
Yeah. Yeah, last year the timing was just a little weird where they weren't sure if there was really, if vaccines had just, I think, were expected to be widely available by the time of Gen Con, but they weren't sure what uptake would be and what authority they'd have to be like, you have to have a vaccine. That has all gone away. They definitely feel comfortable with that, so they have said that vaccines will be required. Masks will also be required in all indoor spaces. They also announced that
do they consider Lucas Oil Stadium indoor space?
They do
Probably
not mention on that, but I would assume so. It does seem a little like it's a big space. I'm not sure that that I feel like it's necessary in there. But I also understand being erring on the side of caution. So they also announced that 4-day and single-day badges are going to be available for purchase beginning at noon Eastern Time on January 30th. So set a notification for that. 4-day badges this year are going to be $125. Thursday and Friday day badges would be $65 each. Saturday is $80. And then Sunday is $16 if you want to go for just a day on Sunday to try and snag up cheap prices on games
the
that
Sunday
vendors don't want to ship home.
Yeah,
kind of the we're going to go one day, we're going to go Sunday, and it's going to be dirt.
Yeah. And then the trade day badge is $225. So if you want to go just for trade day, a little bit steep.
Yeah,
I don't even know what trade day is.
I don't either. I was looking at the same thing, and I was like, that does look to be more expensive. I think it was 110 last time.
For
the 4-day,
but
slowly creeping up.
Slowly creeping. I mean, it's still not. It's still cheaper than the board BGG Con, so that is something.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what they mean by, because I haven't seen more requirements and stuff like that, but what they mean by fully vaccinated, because
does that include booster or not? Yeah.
Yeah, because fully vaccinated now means something different than it did, a little while ago, and it'll mean, I would assume it would mean something different 6 months from now. So I'm curious to see how far back, what it's going to mean, and then also how long. Because if somebody got, the first 2 shots in April of this year, that's not going to mean that much for, or April of last year. That's not going to mean that much for August this year. So.
Yes. The CDC still considers you fully vaccinated even if you don't have a booster. So I think that until the CDC changes that definition, I don't expect Gen Con to say something else. So we'll see on that front. But yeah, I do agree, especially if somebody was Megan was fully vaccinated by December of 2020.
Exactly,
so if she hadn't gotten a booster until Gen Con rolled away, then it's like, what is, how does that change risk factors and things like that? So it'll be interesting. It'll also be, who knows where things are going to be, in another 6 months when Gen Con actually rolls around,
Exactly.
Like Omicron kind of came out of nowhere and then was everywhere. So something else could come along. Zeta, maybe we'll be on Zeta by then. Who knows?
We'll have to go back to AA.
Yeah.
A, B.
No, I mean, we'll just get to Omega, and then it'll be, that'll be it. That'll be the, for better or for worse, that'll be the last one.
That's it. That's all there is. That's all the letters we got.
Yep.
It's the last one.
So yeah. So that's the main news there. They've got the dates for the registration, the costs, and letting you know that it's going to be fully vaccinated and fully masked for year 55 of Gen Con.
Yeah. I would like to go to this one, but the timing of it being on the 4th through the 7th is hard. And then, for me, but then also, I will definitely be curious on the months leading up to it on, what the world will look like then. So, because I felt like with last year's, there were increases and stuff like that, but it seemed more, I don't want to say reasonable is the wrong word, but more, what's the word I'm looking for? Steady? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gradual. So
there you go.
That's, yeah.
So Trade Day is something for just retailers, just for retailers.
Educators, professors, grad students, librarians, and retailers.
Yeah.
Hands-on training, share research network, and participate in professional development opportunities.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's like the trade show portion of the actual trade show that was Gen Con.
And you have to do a badge and complete an application. So it's definitely one of those things if it applies to you, you probably know about it.
Yeah.
It does also look, at least right now, that if you get a badge for 2022, there will not be an option to roll over your badge to 2023 like there was for 20 and 2021. So, but I have a feeling that might change. But we'll see.
I could definitely see it changing based on the state of COVID come July.
There will be refund options, but not rollover options.
Yeah. They also do housing registration. Will be February 13th.
Yeah, the usual.
Yeah. So that nightmare. So all right.
That's it for news.
That's it for news.
Kickstarters. We have a couple Kickstarters because some bold folks decided to launch some Kickstarters. First up in Kickstarters, we have Magicrate. Magicrate. Pretty well funded, $16,000 of its $790 goal. 252 backers, about 2 weeks left to go, and you can pledge this one for $160 for everything, but also $26 if you want to print it yourself.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting one. So it's a 3D printed modular GM box, and you can pledge for either the digital version, which is all the STL files, or you can pledge for various levels of full physical one that they'll print and ship. It's a fairly large cube, is the main shape of the box when it's in transport mode. It fills up a good chunk. They show a picture in the Kickstarter of it in a Kallax shelf. And it fills up a good chunk of the Kallax shelf. I think it had 2 or 3 D&D books beside it, was all the width room it had. But included in that cube is a bunch of stuff. So it opens out, the 4 sides spread out into a big full GM binder. It's got a pair of dice towers, so you can have one facing towards your players and one facing away from them. It's got, it looks like, I don't see if there's more. I'm sure if you got the STL files, you could easily just print more, but it comes with 6 turn order trackers that could clip onto the top of the screen so that you can do turn order. And then it has, and this I actually think is kind of cool, the base of it has little grooves in it where you can put a monster card from a group of D&D cards, or you could fill out a note card with some monster information. And then it looks like it almost is like a health dial beneath it. So you could have like the card for the monster and then tracking its health beneath the card. So it makes it a little bit easier to track some monster health and stats. It's got a couple drawers that fold up inside of there that you can use to hold dice or minis and things like that. There's some hexagon, like specific dice boxes that go into it. Whole bunch of stuff that can all kind of fit in there. Looks interestingly well designed. Even like the one side of it they show is like got a very small grid. Looks like 3, 6, 7 by 7 1-inch grid, so you can make like one small little room for an emergency battle grid, they call it.
Oh yeah, yep.
I'll stick probably with doing my larger, either hand drawn or printed off maps. But they do a whole setup and takedown video. It looks clearly sped up, but they take it from cube to fully unpacked to back to cube in 40 seconds. So you can check that out at your leisure. There are 2 pledges for the STL files. There's the core bundle that's 22 Canadian, and then the all-in that is 32 Canadian. The core bundle is the GM screen, the top and the bottom, and the wide storage boxes with shelves. That also includes the dice tray combat grid and the HP tracker aspects of the bottom and top. The $32 all-in, that's where you get some of that extra stuff like the dice towers, the dice boxes, the initiative trackers, and any unlocked digital stretch goals. For $200, you can back 200 Canadian, 160 American. You can back the Magic Crate, like gold and bronze one, which looks like it's almost everything. It's a bunch of different shelves, some of the dice holders, combat trackers, things like that. Looks like they're including 8 initiative trackers in the base version. The highest priced one is the Galaxy Red physical one, and I'm not sure what else this includes. It has that makes it the extra $250 Canadian over the other one. They don't have a good like side by side. Because they all include.
It can't just be the color.
No. 2 wide, 1 tall, 2 wide, 1 tall. I think it might be. Yeah, I think it's just the color. Yeah, and actually it's the kit, but sparkly.
Gotcha.
Utilizes high quality Galaxy Red and Galaxy Black filament. So it's the exact same thing, just with a fancier sparkly filament. So there you go. They've unlocked a few stretch goals. Just different drawer designs is the big one. Also adding +4 initiative trackers to all of the pledges, or all the physical pledges, really. A random dice set will be added to each physical crate. So you also get a full dice set now. New Magic Crate color. It's going to be a blue and white looking one, blue and silver. Hex combat grid for the digital rewards. So you can choose on the digital whether you want to print the square grid or the hex grid. New colors, new other boxes. They're up to a deluxe Big Bad Evil Guy initiative trackers, their next stretch goal for a digital stretcher. And then 30,000, if they get to 30,000, is the Magic Crate Tower Box digital reward, which I can only assume is an even bigger, taller box that holds even more stuff. So
seems right.
So there you go. Magic Crate 3D printed modular GM box. I'm intrigued. I like that I can maybe just get it for like $30. I'll need to check with like all of my 3D printing homies and see if somebody would be willing to print it for me for a reasonable cost. Because I don't want to like buy it for $30 and then you don't have anybody who's going to print it for me be like, yeah, I'll print it for you for $150 because that's all the filament it's going to cost, or time. I can't imagine how long it would take to actually print this entire thing. And you'd probably need somebody with a decent sized printer to be able to print some of these pieces. So, need to ask around, see what's up. I don't think Paul's even set his 3D printer back up yet, so that might be a missed opportunity there. But we'll see. Some of the things intrigue me. The big cube, not the easiest thing for transporting, but I'm sure I could figure something out if I needed to. Yeah, that's Magic Crate 3D Printed Modular Gm Box. Moving right along.
Next up on Kickstarter, we have Blazon. Pretty well funded, $39,000 of its $15,000 goal, 850 backers, and just a few days left to pledge this one, which you can for $50 for its fancy deluxe edition.
Yeah. So this one seems like it might be right up Andrew the Hater's alley. This is a card drafting puzzly tableau builder where you are basically working on creating your own heraldry. So it's the blazon is referencing like the blazons on your knight's shields. Basically over the course of the game, you are selecting different elements that'll go onto your shield board. And depending on what you choose and where you place it, you can get different distinctions and bonuses. And whoever designs the best shield will be crowned the King of Arms. So, basically, you start off, you get all your stuff together, your tincture and device cards. You're like acquiring them from the central like display. So they don't really go into like how the exact turn structure is, but you're gathering these materials. They're multi-use cards that work both as currency and as victory points if you use them to decorate your shield.
Love a good multi-use card.
Yeah. So you can place cards from your hand onto your shield, and then you have to discard other cards that equal or for an equal or greater point value. So if you play like a 3-point card, you got to get rid of 3 points of other cards. And then there's different placement rules for each of the cards and like where they can go on your shield. As you meet different requirements, you can lock down communal objectives. Like the picture they shows like different colors locked into different point values. So like the first person to do it gets the most points, and then so on and so forth. Yeah, you keep doing that until the end of the game, which they don't really mention what triggers the end of the game. But whoever has designed the best shield and gotten the most points ends up the winner. Art on this one is by Ian O'Toole. So it is a very, very pretty game with some fancy achievement animal tokens. And the shield boards are actually shaped like shields, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I really
I kind of like a lot of all this.
The art and graphic
stuff.
design on it, yeah.
Yeah, looks pretty good.
The game end can end multiple ways. Once you get to 50 prestige on your prestige track, you've filled every space on their player fills every space on their shield board, or a player claims the final distinction award. So
there we go.
Yeah, and then there's
Did
one
you look that
final
up in
turn.
the rules?
Yes, I had the rules up. So
Okay.
And it's also available on Tabletop Simulator as a prototype right now.
There you go. Shipping's fairly reasonable on this one. Looks like $13 to $17 for most places. Well, not most places. $13 to $17 for the 6 places they list, and then the rest of the world is $30. So US, Canada, UK, EU, Australia / New Zealand, and China all get that 13 to 17. The rest of the world, $30. So we'll see. And they say that due to numerous issues with previous campaigns, they will not ship to Central or South America. So I don't know how many Central or South American listeners we have, but just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it seems neat. Looks cool.
Yeah, I do really like the achievement animal tokens that are like the old school like shield type animals like dragons and lions and stuff that are all very stylized and crazy.
Yeah.
I'm digging those a lot.
And that's it for Kickstarter.
Indeed. That brings us over to some listener feedback.
Which we have an email. Emails at milehighgameguys.com. And then we have an email from the Mike Jones. Smart Gamer's Guide to Putting Away Games. This is titled, It is basically just a, what y'all think, a link to a Event Horizon-esque nightmare video, and then hugs and kisses Mike Jones.
Yeah. So the video it links to is over on BGG, and it's from W. Eric Martin, who does like almost all, anytime we cover like a BGG news post, a lot of them come from him. He clearly is very much kind of an insider, works with BGG very closely. And it is a video he did answering the critics on which is a response video to critics of his first video. His first video is the Smart Gamer's Guide to Putting Away Board Games, which basically he bags cards and then everything else he just scoops off the table and into the box loose and wild. And then he goes through and shows like that he does like side by side setup and tear down videos and shows that it takes way less time to do it his way. And then I guess there was a bunch of like critical comments and things because holy shit, this is a monster way to behave. And then he did another video that has a bunch of timestamps, topics covered. This system like won't work for game X, and he answers that. You're playing Quirkle wrong, and he talks about that. Why not just put all of your belongings in one giant pile? Your system doesn't save time. I would never buy a game from you.
Don't you tell me how not to live.
Stop disrespecting games. Yeah, it was painful to watch little bits of both videos. I do get some of what he's coming from. Like he talks about like, you know, some people are concerned like, oh, aren't you worried about damaging the components? He's like, no, like most of the components I do this with are like wooden meeples and plastic bits and like chips and stuff, like are big chunky cardboard pieces. Like, no, like I do bagging my cards. You know, he claims he's never seen any warping of the cardboard boxes from sitting on a random pile of, you know, other components. Maybe. I feel like we see enough warping of cardboard boards here in Colorado.
Yeah.
That they would just be even worse if they were awkwardly sitting on top of the big pile of
ocean
of stuff. Yeah.
Of components.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was not easy for me to watch. It wigs me out. I am a little bit too specific, I'm sure, about like sorting out games. Like I'm going through that. I'm sorting 1861/67 Kickstarter finally, and like stickering all of its pieces and like trying to figure out the best way to sort it. And some people like talk about that, dude, just throw a lot of those things in one baggie for one game. Like you don't need to split them out into their individual like minor or major companies. Just throw them in one bag, and then at the start of the game, dump the bag, and you can easily separate them at that point. And it's like, okay, that's a fair point there. But going so far as to say no baggies at all, I'm just going to dump all of my wooden components into the bottom of the box and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Caverna, just fucking put it all in there, tiles and all.
Yeah.
Feast for Odin.
Yeah. Oof.
Oof, indeed.
Dinosaur World.
Boredom tokens everywhere.
Fuck. So, thanks, Mike Jones. I hate it.
Thanks, I hate it. That's it.
Is indeed it for listener feedback. If you would like to give us some listener feedback of your own, you may do so by sending us an email.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can find us over on Twitter, where I tweet under @MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
I am Jeff_MHGG.
We have our Instagram account at MHGameGuys, Facebook.com/MHGameGuys. And for our website, go to punchboardmedia.com. And you can find links to our entire show notes over there for each episode, which include links to things like the news and Kickstarter items we talk about, as well as links to join our Slack channel, where, you know, right now you get to see all of the, well, I think today is the final day because today's the national championship for college football. So all the week leading up to this has been a bunch of different shit talking about Bama versus Georgia playing each other and how that's just a repeat of, you know, 2 games back when they played in the SEC championship. Fun stuff like that. There is also now Wordle threads.
Oh yeah, Wordle's taking over.
Wordle has rampaged through our random Slack channel, and there's now a daily Wordle thread where everybody can share and compare their Wordle scores. If you've also gotten sucked into that, like, amazingly addictive, incredibly awesome word game. And be sure to give us a follow over on Twitch, twitch.tv/MHGameGuys.
We're totally not watching sumo right now.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely not doing that right now.
So you can go watch sumo over
Watch
there.
Ofer's sumo streams.
I don't know if I'm set to auto host Ofer. If not, I need to turn that on so that we'll auto host his sumo streams. But Mile High Mile High Dungeon Delvers is still streaming every other month. We were remote last week, or every other week. We were remote last week. We are hoping to tentatively be back together next week. We'll see. We might be remote again, depending on what COVID does. And then, I do want to, with the new schedule, hopefully find some time to start doing some more streaming here on Mile High Game Guys. My new job kind of shot that whole plan in the foot when it took away my weekends. But now that I have Saturdays free again, maybe we can figure out some kind of good day to stream some board games or something, and get back in the saddle on that. We'll see. That's it. That's all the ways to get a hold of us. That's everything. We still drug this episode kicking and screaming almost to the hour and a half mark.
Whoa.
So, yeah, I'm gonna shut it down there, just shy of that. Thanks everybody for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. As always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm Holy Jeff.
Bye.
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 Punchboard Media, where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.